Hey everyone, welcome to Talks of Thailand. My name is Jon. Today's story is about a man who seems to have a few quite strange opinions, so I can't wait for you guys to have a listen to see what you think. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, give the video a like, and let's get into today's story. The first time my Thai girlfriend was angry with me, I thought she was playing a cruel joke. I'd gone to Thailand to avoid that very problem, because it had happened to me at home too many times and I was getting very jaded. I now know that I was wrong. Just because she was poor and worked in a bar doesn't mean that she's going to stop being angry in return for being taken out of the bar and for being given money to let her live a more dignified life. It really is a very honest mistake to make though, and I can understand now by listening to lots of stories that many guys seem to make that same mistake too. It's not a mistake that seems like a mistake at the time though. It seems like the best solution to avoid having something like this happen at home, where, until I even went to Thailand, although I didn't have many relationships, the last one that I was in before going to Thailand, it was just a case of her wanting to play the man in the relationship. Even though she wasn't the man, I was the man, but there was some kind of justification for her act, given the fact that she too was working. The modern world expects everyone to work now, don't they, as opposed to not work, and while I didn't necessarily have any issues with that, I just didn't feel like my role as a man was being fulfilled properly. And I wanted to go to Thailand because a logical step told me that my role as a man would be fulfilled there because of the imbalance of financial resources. I need to be clear though, when I say I wanted to go to Thailand for that though, that's a complete lie because I wasn't going for Thailand for that at all, because I didn't understand what Thailand was like. When I say going to Thailand, I mean move to Thailand. My first time to Thailand, I was a complete newbie and I didn't know anything about the country or what to expect. You develop your ideas of what it's like, wanting to go for something more than a holiday based on what you see. Things are based on the experiences that you have and understanding that because you're seeing it like this, that must obviously mean that that's how it's going to be indefinitely. I probably made that schoolboy error that so many people make, looking at a bar and thinking that's where you're meant to meet a girl in Thailand, and looking at the actions of a girl that works in a bar and think that's indicative of every single girl that you're ever going to meet in Thailand. It's just like they're one and the same. Because I suppose I made yet another mistake, believing that the bars were not anything like meeting a girl in a similar position at home. Because at home, they had more opportunities to do other things, and it didn't seem to be something that you would ever do. In Thailand, it wasn't like that though. These were just normal girls down on their luck who wanted to never have to be angry, never wanted to have to use their opinions. I thought, because in exchange for working in a bar, you're giving up your rights to opinions. At least, that's what I was thinking. I think I should take it right back to the start though and talk about why I went to Thailand in the first place. Because it wasn't to go and meet a girl. It wasn't to do that at all. I had no idea that that was going to be something I would even do, but I knew that that side of Thailand was there. I thought I would curl my nose up at it, because it wouldn't be something I would do at home. Again though, when you see it in reality, and it's not like you imagined it being and it's so much better, then you find yourself getting stuck in. My reason for going, in fact, was because I'd gone to this new local Thai restaurant near to my place, and it was really nice food. I never really had food as nice as that before, and I kept going back, and occasionally you'd be in there and you'd see a Thai person walk in, and their food would come out and it would look a bit different, and as if they were say it was being cooked in a special way. Like the stuff served to me was to my palate, and I said to them one day, I'd probably been in a couple of times, "Can I have it like you seem to give it to the Thai people?" They did, and I was blown away by the sense of flavour, the sense of the herbs and spices that they used, and it was really something that sets your taste buds alive. At least it was for me. It was that, and going back more times and starting to look into the country of Thailand as a place to go, thinking I could go and try some of the food there. This sounds great. I want to go and have a tourist holiday, and who is going to go and take advantage of the great food there? Because when you start looking into how much stuff costs, you can have a plate of what I'm having here for £8, I can have it in Thailand for 50 pence, and that was really appealing to me, because I was starting to enjoy the food. This wasn't unusual for me. I'd been to India a number of times because I loved the cuisine there, far better in India than it is at home. Now this is going to be a whole new adventure for me, going to try out some of the delicacies over there. I wanted to try the food mainly, just morning, noon and night, what was best to go than to enjoy Thai food than to go to Thailand itself, and that's, hand on heart honestly, why I went. I bet some people will probably say that that's not true and I'm lying and that I was going to Thailand for the girls because that's what everyone does. That wasn't true for me though. I wasn't that. I knew that side of Thailand existed, of course I did, because I wasn't stupid, but I didn't think it would appeal to me, because something like that wouldn't ever appeal to me at home. I would walk across the street or to the other side of the road if I wanted to avoid something like that at home. In Thailand, you just don't know that it's going to be like. I booked to go for 2 weeks in the summer of 2012, so we're talking about a reasonable amount of time ago. Maybe not the best time to go because I got there and it was monsoon season, but again, you live and learn and it wasn't that bad. It tended to rain excessively for a short amount of time, then you'd be okay for the rest of the day. That was how I found it at the time, and although I've been to Thailand lots of times since then, and it seems to change when it rains more of the day now as opposed to a lot at once, I found that I got caught out a few times on my first time there, but I thought summer was meant to be the time when you went on holiday, just obviously not to Thailand. It didn't really matter either way. It was summer 2012 when I was going there, and I was just excited to go and take in everything that Thailand had to offer and really find out new favourite dishes. I wanted to try lots of dishes that I hadn't tried, because I was mainly sticking to your red curry, green curry, and the pad kapow, which is what they called mince with basil at home. That's what I was sticking to. Had pad thai a few times, so I suppose I didn't really have that much variety of Thai food, but I loved it. I loved how delicious it was, and when you're getting the local version or the Thai version, that was even better. Getting there to Thailand, it was a complete game changer for me. As soon as I arrived, it was a game changer because although I was there for the food, the first thing that hit me was, okay, there's going to be food here, there's just going to be so much more than that. You don't expect Bangkok to be as big as it actually is. You don't expect it to be as modern as it is. I was expecting it to be a really run-down sort of place, where you don't know how things work and how you're feeling uncomfortable in certain situations, but you didn't feel uncomfortable at all. You just felt like this was a completely safe place, although safe is relative. I felt more safe there than on the times I had to go down to London with my job, and this wasn't based on anything other than just feelings. I'm there at the hotel thinking I'm going to go out and eat some food, also thinking I just want to walk and I want to walk and walk some more, just to take in absolutely everything at street level or at ground level and look what everything's going to be like. Walking was something I always liked to do at home, but I'd always walk in the countryside. There were favourite walks that I liked to go on around my area. Set off from my house and 5 minutes later you're in the absolute most beautiful countryside you'll ever see. While something like this, as time went by, as Thailand became more serious for me, wasn't possible, you wouldn't go for a walk in the countryside in Thailand because it was way, way too hot. One thing that Thailand did offer though was the ability to do city walks, to walk around the city, and Bangkok was one of the best places in the entire world for that. Finding that you're setting off from your hotel in Sukhumvit and you're walking down the BTS line and you're hooking a left down the other BTS line streets and you make your way to Silom and you've been walking for over an hour and you're hot and sticky and sweaty, along the way you stop off. Back then they had this and they might still have it now, I don't even know, because it's a long time ago since I've been to that place. But you're walking down the BTS line along the Silom route and you see this all-you-can-eat buffet, which was really cheap, right next to Lumpini Park. I can't remember how much it was, but it was all you can eat for a tiny amount of money, and the food was stunning. So although you're tired and sticky and sweaty and eating spicy food makes you even hotter, you're enjoying it and taking advantage of this all-you-can-eat meal, then walking further, and eventually you get through and go past Pat Pong on your right, which I haven't got to yet, and this is on my second day. Eventually arrive at the river, and I'm just having an amazing time in this amazing city. I was just not only loving the food on my second day there, not only that, I was loving the city, I was loving the scenery, I was loving everything, how it looked, how it felt, how the people were, every single thing about it. I was loving it all, and I was on such a high when I made my way back to the hotel on that second day, quite tired, because I suppose I still hadn't got over the flight yet. I was on such a euphoric high though, that I had noticed a few of the bars when I was on my way back to the hotel around Nana. I'd walked down past Nana, past all the places there, turning left here and right there, and past a shrine that they bombed, which was a very sad experience, I still remember. I walked past a few bars, and they just didn't seem to be like the places I would expect them to be. They didn't seem to be seedy, they didn't seem to be downtrodden. They seemed to be just right there, and they seemed to be for people sitting in them, normal people with their heads held high. There were guys sitting in some of these bars. These were the ones that lined Sukhumvit Road around the Nana area. You didn't have to turn down any size to them. They were just there, guys sitting in there, and they weren't trying to hide their faces. They weren't trying to hide what they were doing. They were just there. They didn't care if people saw them, and you'd see families walking past, and nobody would be turning their noses up at them. Nobody would be giving them an eye to think, and how dare you do that? Nobody did that. I suppose that gave me the idea that you might as well at least go and have a look, and I can promise, hand on heart, that I wasn't going with the expectation of meeting a girl or doing anything whatsoever. That just wasn't who I was. But I had to go and have a look at it though, because if I didn't, I'd have missed out, and it didn't seem like I'd expected it to be. I thought it was seedy, and it wasn't. I thought it was hidden, and it wasn't. I walked into this bar around the Nana area, along Sukhumvit Road, and it wasn't a wild one, but there were a few girls working in there, and it turned out that the bars weren't anything like I thought they were. Although in this bar, I didn't talk to any of the girls, I felt so uncomfortable for this time I didn't know what to do, but I didn't feel like I was being judged at all too, someone looking at me like I had to look over my shoulder to make sure I wasn't doing something I shouldn't be doing. I didn't feel anything like that, I just felt great. I suppose from there, I walked into a couple more bars, and I found myself at this place an hour or so later, down a soi called Sukhumvit Soi 7. I didn't know at the time that this was one of the most famous places in Bangkok, where girls went in to try to meet guys. And they didn't work for the bar, they just went into the bar to try to meet them. And I've heard guys talk about this before because I suppose it's one of the most pivotal bars in Bangkok, at least back then. And I don't know about it today, but this was the beer garden. I've heard that time and time again, the beer garden on Sukhumvit Soi 7. I was in there, and that place just seemed to be on a whole other level to the bars I'd been in up until then. Again, when I was walking in, there was a family, and I can distinctly remember this because it was my first time in there. There was a family walking right in the other direction to me, and I walked in feeling a bit, are they going to judge me? But they didn't even bat an eyelid. It was just so normal. It was what Thailand was all about, and it didn't make you feel how I felt you would feel by going somewhere like that. It made me feel the exact opposite. It made me feel like I was just taking part in an accepted part of Thailand, and a part of Thailand that people really hung on to. That's honestly how I felt. So I walk into the beer garden and sit down. Before I know it, a girl walks over, reaches out her hand and shakes mine, and I thought how friendly of her. She had her own drink, which she had her own tab for in front of her, so she was paying for her own drink, and I didn't quite catch on straight away until we were talking, and she seemed to see that I was having a nice conversation with her, and she gently asked her, is it okay if you pay my bill? I suppose I twigged then, she's working. Again, it didn't matter though, because I just walked in, and it was a normal thing. The way she asked me to pay the bill, and the dates I'd been on before then when I was back at home again struggling to get nagged at, struggling with the girlfriend I had before I went to Thailand for the first time, probably a couple of months before going. She was always nagging, and it was such a stressful situation because I wanted a girlfriend to give me peace and contentment, and nothing for her to have any opinions negative to mine. That's all that happened in the other relationships I had at home though, nag, nag, nag. Because she asked me to pay for her drinks, because she was touching my leg, because she was so appealing and so what appeared to be down to earth, because we start talking about who she is and she's saying how long she's been in Bangkok and she's offering up all this information about her, which I felt was quite private information, just she's offering up all this information, and it was clear that she was very poor, or her family were too, and she needed to help look after them, and she had 2 kids. I found that I'm just loving the conversation with her and learning about her, and I'm sharing my information, and it just feels like we're from 2 different worlds entirely. That was when I started to develop the feelings I had of what Thailand was meant to be and what Thailand is. That if you meet a girl like that, she's never going to be angry with you or anything, because she's just come from a different world and she's escaping that world, and in return for escaping that world, she's escaping the right to be angry. She's escaping the right to give you a difficult time because she doesn't need to work in a bar anymore. She doesn't need to do anything negative to herself anymore. She's got you, therefore she's not allowed to be angry, and that's it. I'm starting to develop these opinions straight away. The thing was, though, when she said would I like to go with her, as soon as I wanted to say no, I found myself saying yes, and I'll skip ahead to the end of this holiday, because the following day I went back to see her again. This felt so amazing to have met her, and the following day I did it again. Then I found that she's staying with me for the rest of my holiday, and she's showing me all the places to eat, the best Thai food, because I love the food, and that's what I was there for in the first place. And I'm falling in love with the country, and I'm falling in love with the food. I wasn't falling in love with her, though. I didn't think she was the most beautiful girl I'd met, and I didn't think I wanted her to be my girlfriend. I suppose I don't know why I stayed with her. Perhaps because it was just effortless for that to happen. I didn't think I wanted to be with her, though. I thought when I go, I'm not going to feel bad about that, and I didn't, but it really opened up what Thailand had to offer. For a start off, back in 2012, Thailand was a lot cheaper than where I was from. The food was so much better than where I was from. The girls were like the girls you'd want, so much nicer and not demanding and not angry, so much more than at home. Just exactly like you'd want them to be. Throughout that time I was with her, which was over a week, Not once did she express any desire to do anything other than what I wanted her to do, and I got it. Yes, I was paying, I was giving her some money, I understood that. But if you have a girlfriend from Thailand, you are still doing the same thing though, although it might be for a few years opposed to weeks. So why is it that the more money you've committed, the more time you've committed, the more effort you've committed, the more of your life you've committed, why should she not do anything other than get better as time goes by, as opposed to worse? I've already come to the conclusion, when I'm flying back home with this huge smile on my face, that I found the country in the world that actually aligns to who I am as a person. I'm starting to think that I need to go back again soon. I need to do what I can do to perhaps meet someone to actually take this to the next level. Because not only was I loving the food, and because of that, loving the food, you can find it so cheaply, and I'm eating my favourite cuisine because Thai food had become my favourite cuisine. I'm eating it morning, noon and night, and each meal is no more than £1.50. And if I'm only spending £1.50 for a meal, and you're with a girl and she's behaving exactly like you'd always thought a girl was meant to behave, and yet she's doing it without you asking, and it's effortless, everything seems to just fall into place in Thailand, and I was starting to think I wanted to go back. Arriving back home, you're hit with the situation that you're not meant to be here. It's all wrong. This is not where I live. This is not my place. This is wrong, because it's completely dead set wrong. Then you've got to take hold and understand the situation, sort of to say to yourself, okay, I'm 49 years old now. I'm not going to get any younger. Maybe I need to change my life completely and throw my weight behind Thailand. Because I knew how much stuff cost based on what I liked. I knew, based on what she told me, that how much you could pay for where she was living, only 3,000 baht a month that she shared with 2 people. She said she did it so that she didn't have to spend a lot of money, no air conditioning, but she said for a little bit more you can get something with air conditioning. So I'm thinking for £100 a month I can probably find somewhere to live, and I can live on £5 a day. Okay, I like to go out, and that's where you spend most of your money on the drinks. And it was easy to meet her, though. I thought, I'm sure you're going to meet someone else, and I'm starting to warm to the idea that I would be able to move to Thailand soon. At 55, I was going to be able to cash in on a pension that I did diligently pay into, and that was going to give me a lump sum of, I believe, around £30,000, or probably a bit more. I can't remember, in all honesty, because how much I got wasn't what I was interested in. I was just interested in getting it. I believe it was just over £30,000 I could have cashed in. Then I was going to be getting a monthly amount of approximately £1,200, and this was at 55. Okay, that was 6 years away, and it was always my plan to work until then. I had never owned a house though, which I guess was a bit of a downer, but I had about £40,000, and if I could make £40,000 last until I was 55, then I'm going to get some more money, and I'm going to be getting an income coming in, and I could probably make Thailand work on a budget, because Thailand is a cheap place. It was a cheap place, and I could make it work. When I'm doing all these calculations over the first few weeks since I've been back from Thailand, and coming to the conclusion that yes, this could actually work for me, that's when it becomes something that could be real. And it was just like amazing. When you're always planning about something and dreaming about something and hoping that something is going to be possible, you want it more when it's not possible. When something becomes possible, you sort of lose interest and I can't be bothered, I'll do something else instead. Or you look for something else that you hope and dream for. But when Thailand actually became a remote possibility in my mind that yes, this could work for me, all of a sudden I didn't start looking for something else. I was starting putting plans into place to actually move there. I basically was able to just do it. That was what I was exciting. It was possible for me. I could move there if I wanted to, and I did want to. I wanted to be there more than anything. I find that about a month after I'd arrived back home, I'm putting plans into place for a very early retirement, working out how much I can spend and what I can do and the things I can't do, working out in early retirement, and I sold my car, got rid of my possessions. I was actually left with a bit more than that. I had £45,000 after that happened, and that wasn't a lot of money. It's got to last just over 5 years, and again, just over 5 years, £45,000, under £10,000 a year at the time. But £500,000 baht or so, which was more than enough per year, based on how much I spent for it to last. And that was what I clung on to as being something that was the most sensible thing for me to do. I just wanted to go back to Bangkok. I wanted my days to involve walking, checking out different places in the city, learning about the city and becoming at one with the city and finding all the little food places where I could eat and maybe meeting a girl and actually having a proper relationship for the first time in my life as opposed to a failed relationship that were failed because of the warped version of what women had become back at home. I think that was what it was, and it was the whole picture that I was moving to Thailand for, and I waited not long at all, although it was the start of 2013 when I was touching down in Bangkok. I was going for everything. I was going for the affordable lifestyle, that was very high on the list. I was going for the amazing Thai food, that was high on the list. I was going to meet a girl and have a girlfriend and maybe even make her my wife, that was very high on the list. maybe even have a family. That too was high on the list, although that was one of the things that didn't happen. Never had any kids, and I suppose that's a blessing, a huge blessing, because that would have been a nightmare at my age to have kids. It wasn't like I could have picked out one of the reasons that I was going to Thailand for and said that's the main reason. There was no main reason. They were all main reasons, all in one. And it was basically the whole picture of what life was like, the reason I was going to Thailand, and it was such an exhilarating time. I'd arrived in Bangkok, and I hadn't been anywhere other than Bangkok yet, and I knew Thailand had lots to offer, and I did think it was a good idea to make sure that Bangkok was going to be the place I would live. I'd started doing research when I was back at home into different places, and I was interested to go and try the northern cuisine because that was meant to be quite different. I had a lot of Isan food when I was in Thailand the first time, that was all over Bangkok, but you didn't really find northern food in the same way. So I went up to Chiang Mai, and for me, I just didn't get the vibes there. It was very popular with many people, I got that, but for me, I just didn't feel it there. All of the food was very nice, lots of different Thai cuisines which were northern food cuisines. Warren curry, which still remained one of my favourites, called Ging Hang Lei. That's delicious. Very close to Indian food, I would say. There's another food called lab. Now, it's not the Isan lab, it's the other lab. Really delicious. And I'm just loving the cuisine. I headed, though, and I had to go to Isan to try Isan food at the source. And although I'm going to the bars because that became part of my life, even though it was never meant to be, I hadn't met yet a girl when I felt anything for. That was up in Chiang Mai. When I was in Khon Kaen, though, I was enjoying the Isan food there. Just unbelievably how much money I was spending. Okay, I was spending about 600 baht a night for the hotel, probably 400 baht for the food and other essentials, and I budgeted a bit extra to go to the bars for a few drinks every now and then. In Khon Kaen, I met this girl there who I really did see something in. She was just very typical girl, a typical girl from Thailand, very small, very beautiful, long black hair, very appealing, just my kind of girl. She really was just my kind of girl, and I felt really interested in her. The first thing that happened with her was, okay, we spent a bit of time together, and I spent a few days there. It was clear, though, that she didn't want to leave Khon Kaen because her family was there, and that's why she wasn't working in a bar somewhere else. And long story short, she was the first girl that I felt something for in Thailand, like really felt something for, that this could be something real. But I wasn't about to live in Khon Kaen, so I felt upset when I was leaving. I even got her number thinking maybe I will come back and maybe I will make a sacrifice for her, maybe I would live in Khon Kaen. I'm already thinking all these different ideas because I'm loving the city, loving how affordable it is and the food. Ultimately, I never saw her again. She stayed with me for a few days though, that girl did, and at least in my mind because she was just picture perfect. I headed next to Pattaya, avoiding Bangkok because I was still thinking living in Bangkok was going to be where I would be. I hadn't been to Pattaya yet though, and I knew I needed to at least have a look. When I got there, I just couldn't believe how great it was. It didn't make sense how great it was. It was like Bangkok on steroids. It was like the best bits of Bangkok all on steroids, and although it was a fun place to walk around like Bangkok was, I'm finding that the proximity to the beach is great too. Although I didn't really find it was a swimming beach. You saw people swimming it all the time, but that wasn't for me. You had the bars along the beach that you were able to sit in and look out at the beach, which was fun. You had the bars there, which again, I'm not a bar guy really, but I go into the bars to meet girls, but I'm not a bar guy. It wasn't like that's what I was like Pattaya for. But I spent a week there, coming to the idea that I wanted to live there. The few experiences that I had with girls in the bars there were not like the ones in Bangkok. They seemed, while you could say that Pattaya was like Bangkok on steroids, or the best bits of Bangkok on steroids, the girls too were probably quite similar, but I just didn't feel it there with the girls that I met for anything other than a fun time. Because of that, I decided to leave Pattaya and go back to Bangkok, where I quickly rented a place to live in Prakanong. Great little place. I suppose great isn't the word you would use because it was only tiny, but I rented it. Small studio unit. Just had a bed and a bathroom and that was it. I even had to buy a TV and fridge, which wasn't a lot of money, and as soon as I've got that, I'm settled in, going to be turning 50 soon. So I knew I was going to get the retirement visa, and I decided that I would stay away from the bars for a couple of days just to get used to living, get to know the local area first so that I can at least describe it when I'm telling girls where I'm living. Because I was really desperate at this point to meet someone, and I suppose too desperate, which is why perhaps after I'd got settled into my place, believing that I was living the dream, living the life. It was only £80 a month, the place I was renting, and electric worked out at about £60 on top, and that included the water. I was paying £140 all in for my accommodation, more than enough money I'd got, I think, to last, and I'm not spending a lot on food. The thought of going for a Western meal was like, what would you do that for? I suppose I was lucky because many of the guys I met which seemed to prefer their own cuisines, and they're spending 5 or 6 times as much for a meal that I am, but I was loving Thai food and I didn't really want to eat Western food, I never did, so I was lucky in that sense. I find that I've settled in well, I decided on, I think it's my 4th night there, now it's time to go out and enjoy the bars. Now it's time to go and potentially meet someone. Now it's time to see what you're going to be able to do. I will say it took me about 3 weeks of going around until I met a girl who really was, I felt, perfect. I spent time alongside a cowboy, met one girl there who was really vivacious, who was really lively and outgoing. She was working behind the bar, she wasn't working in front of it. Of course, you know what that still means, you aren't stupid. But the way she just seemed to effortlessly want to please was fun. Ultimately, I just didn't feel it was as well with her as it was with another girl I met, which, funnily enough, was in the beer garden. 25 years old she was, and her story was a usual story of what girls are going to tell you. A sob story. Kid back in the village. Husband or ex-husband. Bad man. Him like drink. Him like spend money. Him like gamble. You know the story. You've heard it all before, time and time again. I was just enamored, though, by her. There's no other word I can use to describe how I felt. I just felt like she was picture perfect. I felt like she was everything that I'd dreamed of finding in a girl. And the thought of being able to be with her, and not having to worry about being shouted at, or being nagged at, or being complained about, or anything, it really set my mind racing with excitement because it was real. Finally, I found something real. Finally, I found something fun. Finally, I found what I wanted to find. Finally, I'm in the right position of my life, and it really did fall so hard. After I'd known her for no hint of a lie less than a week, she was already living at my place. The first girl that was living with me, and things started out brilliantly, absolutely brilliantly. I'd agreed to give her a little bit of money because she talked about how much she sent to her family. She said she only sent them 5,000 baht a month, so I said, I'll give you 5,000 baht a month, and she bit my hand off, saying that's great, thank you. So, 5,000 baht a month it was what I was giving her, and I was paying for everything too. When we went out, or if she wanted to go buy food, I would give her a little bit of money on top. But I thought 5,000 a month for her family was more than enough, because that's what she sent for them. Therefore, I'm stepping in to replace that, and if I'm replacing that, she's not going to need more, because I'm paying for anything anyway. Therefore, there's no problem. So it's sorted. She's living with me, and I'm just following the same kind of routine that I'd followed ever since I'd moved into that place, which wasn't that long ago. Just going and looking around, having things to eat and walking. She doesn't like to walk a lot, so sometimes she stays in the room, sometimes she goes with me, sometimes we go to the malls and she walks around there, and I'm starting to feel like life is great. Starting to feel like nothing can go wrong from here, and this went on for a good 2 months, probably longer than that. Not one problem, not one time has she raised her voice, not one time has she asked for anything above what we talked about, not one time has she appeared to be someone that she wasn't, not one time has she given me any cause for concern or made me change my mind about how a girl that works in a bar is. She was basically that same bar girl that I met, although I knew her better. I knew some of her little intricacies, she knew mine. I knew some of her habits and she knew mine, and we were getting to know each other very well. Nothing changed about who she was as a person from who I met in terms of her demeanour or her attitude or anything. Nothing changed whatsoever. I was, at this point, in love with her. I'd found the girl I was in love with. I wanted this to be it, and I wasn't just about to jump in and get married yet, because I felt that was too soon. Although I was thinking about marriage, I thought the next step after having a successful courtship phase in Bangkok was to go away together for a week, because I hadn't been to any of those beautiful beach areas in Thailand as of yet, although I'd heard about them time and time again, and felt like I needed to go. So, we decided to go to Koh Phi Phi, which was very interesting. A place I found, it was recommended to us. You still had travel agents along the streets in Bangkok at the time, and I walked into one. Can you recommend anywhere? And they said there. So that's where we went. And it was picture perfect. It was idyllic. It was what Thailand's meant to be. Postcard Thailand. We stayed in a nice resort, so I was splurging a bit, but it was worth it to be able to be with her and to get to know her in a different setting. I just found it was obvious that she was so happy that she was with me, so happy that she was able to experience this, and she was just being everything I wanted in a girlfriend. Everything I wanted in a girlfriend. And I think that the week that we spent in Phi Phi was something that solidified who she was as a person, and solidified what she was able to do with me, and solidified everything for me to the point that yes, this is real, and this is what it's meant to be. I thought this was great, and nothing else could be better than this. I believe that I should be with her for the rest of my life at this point, and after we got back to Bangkok, again, still in love again, still giving her the same amount of money, and again, not once has she shouted at me or screamed at me or said anything to the contrary of what I believe is best. I'm starting to think that I've just hit the jackpot, and this is great, and I'm starting to think that marriage should be on the cards soon. I wasn't yet there though. Again, let's just wait a bit longer. Another month or so goes by, everything's exactly the same as it has always been. Life's perfect, it always was like that, and I asked her to get married then. I took her to a place that she'd talked about often wanting to go, and didn't want to splurge often, but occasionally go for a special occasion, and I took her to the Bangkok Sky Tower. They had a couple of buffet restaurants right at the top. I took her to the Chinese one up there, and it was a really nice meal. Nighttime setting, seeing the lights of Bangkok in all directions. We had a great meal, and it was really fun. She seemed to really enjoy it, which was very important to me, and we went up to that spinning bit at the top where you're outside and you can see, taking in the atmosphere from the top of the building. It used to be Thailand's tallest building before the Mahanakorn. When we were on that spinning walkway, she was looking at the view, and I tapped her shoulder and got down one knee and got the ring out, and then did everything the proper, traditional way, because that's what you're meant to do, and it was perfect because she agreed. She was happy. She even had a tear in her eye. There were a couple of people there who clapped when she agreed to get married, and I'm thinking that this is amazing. I'm thinking that I've got life in front of me right here, and everything's going right. I found a girl who is exactly what a girl's meant to be. She's basically perfect in every single way, every way, shape, and every way, form, and she's just perfect. It was just like life was coming together for me so well. Thailand was coming together so well. Now I was engaged to get married. Perfect, perfect girl, perfect Thailand, perfect country, perfect everything. And life was everything I wanted life to be, and life was continuing to be everything I wanted it to be, and I couldn't have been happier. Over the next few days, we're living and we're talking about marriage, and she's dropping subtle hints about having to go and see the family and the situation there because of face in the village, and I understood that. I knew what it was going into it, that there might be a couple of little expectations from me, and I was good with that. It was part of the budget, and I was happy to play the part to make her happy because she's making me happy. The thought of never having to worry about anything ever again, because as a guy you don't want to worry about things, you don't want to have to ask for anything, you just want it to happen naturally and organically, and yeah, I knew I had to step in and I was good with that. It was about 3 weeks though, after we'd become engaged, and she'd spoken to her family a few times, and she said they were happy that we were going to be getting married. She'd met someone, she were happy about that, and it was after that's when we were up in the village, which, funnily enough, was Khon Kaen. Spent a night in Khon Kaen City, funnily enough again in the same hotel I stayed in before, and I didn't feel anything about that, apart from being this amazing guy. I'd spent time in this hotel with a girl I'd met not far away, and there I am with another girl who was actually my fiancée, and I just felt like I was king of the world. I was the epitome of what you're meant to be in Thailand, and life was great. I was shocked about the village. You can hear it described so many times, and I'd heard it described so many times by so many girls, and it was such a shock on the senses about how basic it really was. Again, her family seemed to be warm and welcoming, though, and I knew I was there to discuss the marriage and the wedding, and that was going to happen. I was thinking the whole budget for the wedding was 100,000 baht for absolutely everything, but when we're there and the figure of 400,000 baht comes up for sinsot plus a bit of money on top for the wedding, you're touching 500,000 baht nearly. Plus it was probably going to be a little bit more than that even for certain other things. Probably, 500,000 baht, huge chunk of my money. I took her to one side and said, no, I've got the budget for this of 100,000 and that's it. 100,000 for everything. That was the first time she got angry with me, and I thought she was playing a cruel joke, like I said right at the start, I really did. I thought she was just having a laugh, I thought she was finding it funny. I thought it was, don't worry, of course you're not going to have to spend that much money. This is Thailand, it's meant to be cheap, these people are poor. I thought she was having a laugh, and I even started laughing, and then she got even more angry. Then I'm thinking, well, she's playing the game very well, starting to feel a bit on edge, wondering when she's going to say, ha, I got you. But she didn't though. She got even more angry, and I'm there, all of a sudden, in this position, where every single perfect time I'd had with her, every single thing that had given me confirmation that she was who she was, had just changed because she was angry because I didn't want to spend about 500,000 baht for the wedding and give money to her family. Why would she do this to me? And then she said to me, why you do this to me? That's what she said. This is Thailand, everybody do. And she used to say English words in, I find very sweet way. I really love the way that Thais speak English like that because it's not proper English, but that's part of the fun. But she's saying why are you doing this to me? She said, no way you do this to me, and I don't know what it was. To me, it wasn't part of the plan. I told her that you're not meant to be angry. What are you doing? Why are you angry with me? You're not meant to do that. You worked in a bar. I even said that to her, and she looked at me like, what are you talking about? I said to her, I meet you in bar. How you angry? I'm speaking the same way to her as she speaks to me, bad English. I meet you bar. How angry? Everything like that, no problem. I can spend what I wanted to spend, about 100,000 baht. And I'm telling her it like it is, and it's stupid to think about, but she said, no, this is very important to my family. It was just quite an alarming situation. I didn't know at the time that paying sinsot for a 25-year-old with a kid who had already experienced things, I didn't know that that was something that you shouldn't do. I mean, I didn't want to, and I suppose I did know, but I don't know what it was in either way. So I find myself, embarrassingly, instead of running as fast as I could and saying see you later, because I felt things for her already, because I felt like I loved her already, because I felt like she was meant to be the girl for me already, I reluctantly said, well, I'm sorry then, okay, I will pay. About £10,000, I'll pay. She just went back to being her old self again, and unfortunately, I didn't take that as a sign of things to come. I saw it as a one-off, because you only get married once, you only pay sinsot once, it's only a one-off. And as I said, I arrived with about £45,000. I'd probably spent at this point about £5,000, and the fact that this was going to cost me around £10,000, taking me down to £30,000, it didn't concern me, because I knew I could stretch it until £55,000. I knew I could, but it had taken a big hit, and I just thought and told myself it's a one-off. I told myself she's never going to do this again, because you're married to her, and she's your wife. Therefore, if anything, she's going to be more grateful, and more committed, and more appealing, and more everything you'd want in a girl. Again, what I should have done is run away and said, you're making a mistake. What you want is going to get worse, not better. Because I honestly thought getting married, she was going to be a more extreme version of her better self. That's what I thought, because why wouldn't she be? She doesn't need to work now, she's got married, and she's looked after. If you're looked after, surely in return for being looked after, you forego your side when you're angry about things. When she was angry though, when I was pushing back against the 500,000 baht thing or just under, she was really angry. She was really vicious and awful to see in that situation, and I just thought it was a one-off. That's why I did it. That's why we got married about a month later. That's why I overlooked it, because throughout that month of us getting ready for the marriage, everything was going well. When we went to get married, everything was going well. Her family were happy, she was happy, I was happy, everyone was happy. And when we were in Bangkok for the month after we got married, just continuing our life together, I was happy, she was happy, everything was great, everything was going like you'd want it to go. It got to the end of the month, the end of the month, when I usually gave her 5,000 baht. I gave it to her as I usually did, feeling like I was being generous, because it was generous. You didn't need any money from me because you didn't need to pay for anything. Why do you need anything? You just need to be perfect, then you don't need to work, then you can be looked after. I gave her this 5,000 baht though, which was the agreement, and I was happy to. But she said something which of course I pushed back on straight away. Why do you only give me 5,000 baht? Most of my friends, they get more than that. Some of my friends get 20,000 from their husband. I looked at her and said, well, we'd already agreed on 5, so I'm happy with 5. I said, don't worry about it, expecting her to just stop talking about it and be perfect and normal. That she started sulking though, and I'm thinking, are you the same girl? What's going on? You had a perfect month. I've just spent too much money for your family. Who do you think you are? That's what I'm thinking. What's going on? What's wrong with you? You don't need money. What do you need money for? I didn't say that to her straight away. I just said, no, don't worry, 5,000 is fine. But I could tell by her demeanour and her behaviour that to her it wasn't fine, and that month following, although she still performed as a wife and she was still okay, I could just tell that the fun wasn't there to the same extreme that it always was. The exhilaration, the happiness just wasn't there. I just didn't feel it, and I took it down to the fact that perhaps I should give her 10,000 instead, which I didn't want to, but perhaps I should. The next month, when I gave her 10,000, she said, what's this? I said, I'll give you 10,000 now, and she was back to her normal self. She wasn't angry at the time, she was just sulking and being miserable and not behaving herself, and I don't know, just being worse than for me, than for a guy that she'd just met in the bar. That's the thing that I always felt off about, and that's the thing that made me feel sick as the time went by, and I was angry about it to myself, and I didn't say it to her again, because I saw how little she liked it when I said it before. I couldn't work it out though. When I met her in a bar and did things with her and was with her and spent time with her, she was better in that situation, which obviously meant that it had happened to other guys as well. Just she was better in that situation with other guys who didn't know her or love her or respect her than she was with me, who was her husband. That is so wrong. You're not allowed to do that. She was sulking though, and she was just miserable, and it was an awful thing for me to have to experience. So now I find I'm giving her 10,000 baht a month, which is eating into the budget, because I've got to make my money last. We've got just under 5 years to go. I've got to make about £30,000 left, and she's getting 10,000 baht a month from me. Okay, I can make it last, never mind. It was about 3 months later when she asked for something for the family for this emergency. Emergency, how many times have you heard that? Again, she was perfect for those 3 months. Okay, she's getting extra money out of me, but perfect for those 3 months. Then bang, I need something for the family. No, don't be stupid, you're not having any money for your family. Then she's upset, and then she's miserable, and then she's not behaving herself, and she's really unkind and not performing like a wife should perform. And I don't understand how she can do that, because she was like that when I met her, when working in a bar. Working in a bar, and maybe you spend a bit of time with her, and you might give her, and she might be happy with 1,000 baht, and that's what I consider to be the correct worth, 1,000 baht. If you're happy for 1,000 when you don't know me, surely you should be happy with even less when you do. But she wanted 100,000 baht for the family, and I said no. Now she's sulking and she's miserable. Might already tell my family, yes, she said. I already told them. They're struggling, they have a problem. And I said, what about the money that I already gave them? They've already spent that. Well, they had no right to have that money in the first place. They just took it from me. That's when you find yourself giving in because you want back the version of her that you should have had all along. Not telling yourself you could have had that version of her, yet not with her. You need to meet a girl and not know her. A girl that doesn't know you will be nicer to you, and how stupid as that sounds, as ridiculous as nonsensical as that sounds, a girl that doesn't know you will be nicer to you and will want less from you, even though it should be the opposite. I honestly thought it was going to be the opposite. I thought we were already solidified in this relationship. I thought this was it. I'd already found my happiness and what I wanted, which was her to perform her best at all time, as well as to be able to enjoy myself with her, and I was doing that. But no, this money, and I was the idiot that stepped in and gave it to her. I hate myself thinking about it because it wasn't the last time. This is where it started to unravel, because I would probably say it lasted about another 2 years with her, because when she was behaving the right way, she was everything I wanted her to be. I'm stepping in and giving more money when I shouldn't be giving it. Not all the time, but I'm giving her money here, I'm giving her money left, right and centre, across approximately 2 years to the point where I had about £5,000 left, and that was the coming to realisation moment that she'd bled me dry. She'd completely bled me dry because of perhaps 20 or 30 little individual incidents that added up to all my money. She was perfect without those 20 or 30 incidents, because I didn't get to 55 though. I was a few years away from 55, and I didn't have the money to last, and I just allowed it to happen like an idiot, like the most stupid person in the world. I just allowed it to happen, not because I wanted to give her money, because when I didn't, she sulked and was miserable, and you start thinking about the money you've already given, so you need to give more so she can be back to normal, hoping that she will last until 55, hoping that you're probably not going to, but just hoping. The hope of hopes that you will, but you don't. It's really an awful and difficult situation, because I was just there, completely dejected, completely broken, and upset when she's asking for money and giving it to her, because as soon as I give it to her, she's behaving like I'd always wanted her to behave, and I suppose it's what happens to so many guys, because they fall for that trap. They fall for the trap that the idea of meeting a bar girl is that in terms of being with someone who doesn't have anything, you have full say over how things go. You give her what she needs, which was 5,000 baht a month. That's all she needed. She only needed 5,000 because that goes to her family. I was paying for everything anyway. I was still paying for everything in the same way while giving her more money, and she didn't need it. What attracted me to her was her not having any money. What attracted me to her was her total reliance on me, on my terms. But she wanted it on her terms though, and she gets more money out of me than she's asking for money for this and money for that. And it's only at the most opportune times for her when she asks for it, and I'm at my weakest, and when I'm at the time when I need her to behave appropriately. Then after she's behaved appropriately and money's been given, it's like the amount of money I've given to her for this. It would have been better for me to just go out and meet a different girl and have no commitments and no connections who would have performed better anyway for far less. And it just doesn't make any sense, and I'm just so confused and angry and bitter and devastated and shocked, and absolutely every single thing going through my mind is when I'm with her and the money's going down to the point where I only had £5,000 left. That was when I had to tell myself, this is not sustainable, and I decided to tell her, I can give you the 5,000 baht we originally agreed on. When I turn 55, you can have 10,000 baht then, and we've got to wait it out. We've got to really, really budget, because it was possible, well, at a push, to spend absolutely nothing, just barely ticking over until I got what I needed to get at 55, which was a while away. It was going to be a real struggle. She just looked at me like, I'm not going to do that. And then, well, it was quite clear that she was only with me for the money, which was fine in one way, but it was too much money. If it was what I was prepared to give, and that's why she was with me, then that still would have been fine, but she wanted more and more and more money, that she didn't deserve or need that because she didn't come from that amount of money. What she needed was to be slightly better off than if she was in her childhood, and I was giving her that. She had slightly more than that, yet she wanted more. Completely out of her station for wanting more. She had no right to want more. She should have just done what she should have done, but she didn't. Then it was the biggest argument of all time. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing anything. You bad man, how dare you call me bad man? You have no right to take any money from me. You should have just been happy with 5,000 baht a month. You worked in a bar. I started shouting that when it was the least argument that we had together. You work in bar, I said to her. You work in bar while you do this. So what, I work bar? You work in bar. You did that before. You gave up all your rights to be able to do this. That's why I met a girl in a bar. I kept telling her the whole purpose of meeting a girl in a bar, the whole entire everything of meeting a girl in a bar is so that this doesn't happen. You give up your rights to dignity. You give up your right to opinions and ideas and everything because you worked in a bar. You met a guy and you were able to do things with him that were able to not have to worry about how anything to do with anything apart from this. Why? The longer you stay with me, the more you want and the worse you are. How does that make logical sense? I kept telling her this doesn't make any sense, and she's looking at me like I'm stupid, and I'm looking at her like she's stupid, and it's like, what's wrong? I'm angry about this now, and it's years later, because it destroyed me. It destroyed my whole life. All she needed to do was be like she was when I met her. For me, only. Simple. That's all she needed to be. But no, she didn't want that, did she? She wanted this, and she got money out of me, because I didn't want to lose what I'd already given. I didn't want to start again, and I should have started again. As soon as I went and they were talking about that stupid Sinsort scam, I shouldn't have said anything. I should have said, absolutely not. You're not having any money out of me. That's ridiculous. You can either marry me or not. And she would have said no, and I could have gone and found another girl that same evening if I wanted to. I didn't think that though at the time, did I? You don't think that. People don't think that even though they should. To any guy that might be out there, what I would say is, don't, under any circumstance, give any money for Sinsort. Don't, under any circumstance, give any money to any girl more than what she should have. Don't, because if you do, another guy will do the same thing for another girl, and then the expectations will get so high that the whole point of Thailand is going to be completely diluted in the first place, and it is. Because I had to go back home. I got divorced, had to go back home, and it was awful. 3 years of working again just to get to 55 before I could be back to Thailand, and I went back, and I hated it. You go in the bars and you're having a reasonable time, you're seeing girls and you're just thinking, well, I can't be with any of these girls because they're not going to remain how they are now. They're going to want more. They're going to become more demanding. They're going to become less appealing, less fun, want more, give less, want more, give less. How does that make sense? The guy stays with a girl, he wants the same, but gives more. That's the thing. As a guy, you meet a girl, you want the same as you have when you met her, and you want to give the same. You want the same, give the same. But no, when you're staying with the girl, you want the same, you have to give more comparatively as time goes by. What she wants is she's happy with less and she wants more to give less. So it's like the guy you can't win. Don't ever get into a relationship with a girl in Thailand or anywhere for that matter, because things for you get worse and things for them get better. That's probably how I'm going to have to leave it. I didn't like Thailand at that time, I hated it and I left and I went to the Philippines and okay, I live there today. Is it great? No. Do I have a wife? Absolutely hell no. Do I have a girlfriend? No. I have girlfriends when I need them, but it's not the same as what I like, what life was meant to be. Why can't I just have a girl like I meet for something casual, for that to be serious, and she just remains the same? Why is that impossible? I don't know, but it just is. That's my story, and I'm angry. I'm really angry as I'm saying this because it's just ridiculous how life works. It works this way though. I'm okay, I suppose. I'm happy, I'm able to live, and that's the main thing, but I can't share my life with someone. I want to share my life with someone, but I can't. Because if you do share your life with someone, all she's going to do is want more and give less. All you want is for her to give the same and expect the same, but it doesn't work, and it never will. I regret going to Thailand and having the opinions I had, because although I know some of them are wrong, it's not like they were wrong to the same degree that I thought they were. What was meant to happen was obvious to me. Surely, the longer you stay with someone, the nicer they should do and the less they should want, or the same they should want. But why is it that the more love you give for someone, the less love they give for you and the more they want out of you while performing worse? That's what I will never understand. I really don't understand that. And this is a story for any guy out there who wants to be in a position like I wanted to be in. Just know it doesn't happen like that. It doesn't. Unfortunately, it never will.